few days ago I showed you some of the books that I was using when I was a beginner back in 1997. Now, one of the books that I enjoyed reviewing the most was the Sagreras Volume number 2, and the reason is simple. There are so many interesting classical pieces in that book. One in particular I find it really interesting and beautiful because it is played with chord progressions that we use all the time. I mean, we are in a key of G major. And, you know, it starts with the G, A minor, G over B, and C. I mean, it's a chord progression that we play all the time on the acoustic guitar. Now, Sagreras approaches these chords in a completely different way. We still have the same G major chord, of course, but then the A minor chord, rather than just play the usual A minor, he plays the A minor with a D in it. So we have this additional color, this fourth within the chord, and then we have a passing chord, an A sharp diminished chord, and then finally the G over B. And of course, you can emphasize all these beautiful colors with the finger picking pattern, which is quite straightforward. It sounds like this. So we have the thumb always plucking the bass note of the chord, and then the index on the D string, the middle on the G string, and the ring on the B string. And then we can, you know, kind of change the arpeggio depending on which chord we are playing. Most of the time is always thumb and ring, followed by the middle and index, middle again. Now next we have two chords, a C major chord, followed by a G6 chord, and a G major chord. But how is Sagreras playing these chords? Like this. So the arpeggio is still the same, we are just changing set of strings. And we have now the ring on the first string, the middle on the second, and the index on the first string. But there is this nice melody on the top E string. Played with the F sharp on the E string for number 2. And the E string open again. So the bass note is only played one time. And then the G6, which is played with the B on the bass. So like this. So we have the melody on the top E string and the bass on the A string. So we have thumb and ring, and then the middle on the third string and the index on the D string. So it's kind of quite of a jump. And then the melody on the fret number 3 on the B string. You see there is always a melody within the chord. Now the next two chords, the B7 and the E minor chord. So we're going from a G over B, which is played with the melody here on the B string fret number 3, which is the note D, to a D sharp played with the B7 chord, and then the E minor, which is going to be quite easy to play. Now the arpeggio is still the same, we just need a bar chord on the fret number 2. And the arpeggio though is going to also play the melody, which is played on the B string and the E string. It sounds like this. So the melody is played with the ring finger and is on the B string, E string, and the B string. And then we have the E minor chord, which is very simple. Very nice, very simple, just open strings. We changed the set of strings here and we have the G, the B, and the E string. With the melody on the fret number 3 and the fret number 2. So far we already played a lot of chord progressions that we usually play all the time, but how interesting these chord progressions are played in this classical piece, right? Now we have the last two chords, the A major and the D major, which he's going to play as a 13th chord, so it sounds like this. So we went from A major and D major to this lovely A13. Very, kind of dreamy and beautiful chord. The arpeggio is the same, the melody is on the first string, fret number 2. Open, 2, and 3. And then we're gonna play the same 13th chord with the D, all the way up to the fret number 5 with the bar chord, and then 7 and 7. And the melody is on the first string, fret number 7, 5, and then just the bass. And the fret 7 on the G string. Now this second section is quite interesting, and you would find a lot of chord shapes that you probably already know. And we open up with this G major chord. So we have G major, D7, and the E minor chord, D major, C major, and then E major, A minor. So a beautiful, beautiful chord progression. But the melody starts right here on the fret number 7. So we're playing this G major chord. And the arpeggio is kind of similar, even though now we have thumb and ring, but then middle, index, and middle again. So, and sometimes I like to anticipate the bass and play the bass before the note of the melody. So not simultaneously, but before. I mean, look at this B7. Rather than just play the usual B7 chord, he's playing this lovely inversion where you have the 5th, the root note, the major 3rd, and this lovely root note again, and then the minor 7 played on the fret number 5. Now the E minor chord, simple. As well as the D major chord, very acoustic-ish. And the C major as well. Now the E major chord is gonna play an E7 over B. notice how the finger picking pattern is slightly different, and I think it does that to emphasize the melody. So you put down the chord and you play with the thumb, middle, index, middle, ring, then middle, index, and middle. So it's kind of a slightly different pattern. And the A minor chord, which is just a simple A minor chord. Now the last section, also really interesting. So we have an A minor over C, or a C major 6. The arpeggio is still the same, with thumb and ring, and then middle, index, and middle. But the next chord is interesting. We go up 1 fret, with this kind of diminished chord. And then the G over D. So rather than just play G major, it will play D shape, but with the bass on a D. And then the G major with D on the bass again, but with the melody on the E string, fret number 3. So just a bar chord on the fret number 3 and the G string fret number 4. The same D13 and the D7. And we finish with the G major chord. I hope you appreciate this tutorial, guys. Take it step by step, enjoy this lovely classical piece. Have fun, and I'll see you soon.